a lot for the presentation. It's quite insightful and I think very much helpful. I think what also fascinated me is the issue of the heritage in terms of the properties, because maybe in some of the places one might intend to do the work, you could think of it being an old township where the houses are now even over 60. I'm just thinking of places like, let's say, Orlando and so forth, you know. Yeah, so one of the things which also you've brought up, you've rightfully put it well around these issues of the city bylaws. You know, coming from a health background, I know I worked for Johannesburg City Council where we were coming up with inspection and looking at some of the things, especially, you know, littering and so forth. But over a period of time, I've seen that city bylaws and also even town planning is sort of neglected. If you go around Alex, Deep Sloot, people are building right into the freeways. And I think some of the things which sort of also come into mind, even the developments which one might do within a property, you'll find out that as much as, yes, we are looking at maybe doing the back rooms, rentals and so forth, but long run, the value of the property with your neighbors who are not maybe adhering to some of these conditions sort of, you know, impacts on the value of the property or its growth. So for me, it's not a question to you, but maybe something which we can be discussing or think much more about. How do we, let's say, even in this group, advocate for the implementation of the bylaws as they are intended to be, looking at all what we want to invest into? Thank you.
Thank you, Proxy. Mhlekazi, do you have any comments? Proxy is raising a very good point. When I started with my investments and building of back rooms and multi-lets, one of my friends who's an advocate said to me that, you know, if Sentin was built the way we are building Alex, the values that the property values that are there in Sentin today, they'll probably not be where they are if we had built them the way we are building Alex. So it's a very, very important point that the brother is raising. Do you have any comments on it?
Yes, Mhlekazi. Thanks, Bui. I'll just bring my own knowledge on this one. According to my experience and my observation, town planning, I think, is neglected by the most. Yeah, it's neglected. It's neglected by even with professions that we work with. For example, your engineers, your geotechnicians, your architects. I think our work is is underrated in a manner that it also brings them back. Now, these professions, it also brings them back to understand that actually our work as town planners, it comes first. Our work as town planners is the most important profession in our society, because we plan for communities. We plan for different land uses to work together, for communities to function together. So we always come at the top to bring order on space. So sometimes we become enemies with our profession. From my experience, most projects, they start without a town planner, and then they get stuck in the middle of the operations. because there's a town planning work that needs to be done. And then they invite the town planner in the middle of the work, and then they put a pressure on town planner to deliver, because now they are stuck with their work. They can't continue. To show that our work as town planners, it should not be neglected. Yes, if you, for example, if you have too many open spaces in nowadays in urban space, especially in urban areas, obviously people flock in. Once they flock in, that's urbanization. People need more space, to be closer to economic opportunities. Unfortunately, most of them, they don't have income, they don't have money to build proper structures. They end up building shacks. And what shacks do, they devalue properties. I think that's what most people now, especially I've seen the development happening along N3. There are open spaces there, and now the owners of those open spaces, I can tell they are seeing this urbanization is gonna kick them hard. Now there's a lot of development of building these open spaces just to prevent this uncontrollable land invasion, because it's gonna devalue their properties. Yes, properties in Sentin, they won't be the same as Alex, because they are highly controlled. They high security, visibility, policy visibility, proper planning. They always make sure they complain to the city council, and I'll put it out there. Yes, in our society, there's inequalities. It depends who has what, on their hands. Do you have much money? If you have more money, you first. You attend you first. But it's a pity with the issue of Alex as well. You won't believe Alex. It was once, I'll use this term, but you forgive me. It was once a white suburb. White people used to reside there, but then with the time, when people started to look for places, and there was no order on Alex. As people came in, there was no order. The white population migrated to the other side of M1. So we have this spatial fragmentation we have today because of inequalities. Yes, we're raising a very important issue. We need to bring order as town planners. We need to bring order, enforce regulations and bylaws because I know in a space of Alex, it's very hard. It's very hard to implement the bylaw, because with Alex, you need to plan it properly, start it afresh. And as far as I remember, there were plans that were being done by the city of Joburg to redo a new special development framework for Alexandra. So at the moment, it becomes very hard to implement those bylaws. So yes, that's a thing that needs to be considered. Thanks for your comment.
Yeah, thanks, Mhlekazi. Maybe if I can add there, one other problem is the issue of information. Hence, again, I decided to do these roundtables and invite you, ladies and gents, to partake in them. Because sometimes you don't know. Mhlekazi is saying people start a project and then they call a town planner later when the municipality says, but where is the zoning, or the zoning of this area does not allow what you want to do. It's an issue of knowledge of information, because I doubt if there is anyone who would start a project knowing very well that's going to require municipality approval, knowing that a town planner is required, and then they ignore to then go and get a town planner. But like Mhlekazi is saying, you need to bite the bullet from the beginning. But the second problem is the issue of municipalities or the government, if I can generalize it, taking too long to attend to their requests, to attend to our applications. Because if you take too long, people will tend to then say, okay, I will go ahead and do the building myself. Because, for instance, we borrow money from the banks to do these things. And then if we borrowed money and now we delay it because of the municipalities, then the government itself is costing us. So one way or the other, sometimes the government does promote lawlessness by taking too long to attend to the issues that people are raising. As part of the conference that I was saying I'm organizing, I'm hoping that we're going to have someone from the government, either the municipality of Tshwane or the municipality of Johannesburg. And I'm using these ones because they are closer to me, and probably we're going to get access to them. But if anyone knows someone from other municipalities, like the big metros, I can also invite those as well, so that we can talk about these bylaws, whether these bylaws suit the kind of living space, the kind of spaces that we're living on today, and the kind of environment that we're living on. Because I tend to sometimes think that these regulations, they were meant when things were not the way they are today, but they still enforce them. Sometimes I tend to think that the municipalities enforce the same regulations in the suburbs as it would be in the township. And sometimes those two environments are not the same. We need to comply with the regulations for sure, but the government needs to come to the party as well and assist us in terms of complying. And most importantly, by just making sure that the rezoning does not take 100 years. Rezoning must not be taking more than 3 months. I don't understand why it takes such a long time. And most of the time you find that you submit an application for rezoning, even if it's a building plans. You find that one department is sitting with your application. It just needs to be, the file just needs to be taken from that department to the next department for them to approve whatever that you would have applied for. And the file is just sitting there, no one is attending to it. And that's why it's taking so long. For instance, when I did someone rezoning application, find that the municipality, the roads, no, it was not the rezoning, it was the approving of the town, of the building plans. The roads department did not want to approve the plan because they were saying it does not comply with the requirements. But those requirements were only in their heads. The town planning scheme was saying something else. The requirements for the town planning scheme were different to what the person was telling me. So the plan was going up and down because this guy is saying no, but it's not in line with the requirements. But when I read the town planning scheme, it says something totally different. And I had to go there myself and say to them that, no, but where is what you're saying coming from? Because here is a document, it's saying something totally different. And it's only then that she then sat down and then approved my plan. And then I had to then take it to the next level. So there's those things as well that our government needs to attend to, and the municipalities specifically that they need to attend to. But again, like I'm saying, and like Bui's proxy is saying, we need to comply because we're devaluing our properties by not complying to the building plans. I think it was Edgar on the chat also asked a question whether banks approve properties that don't have building plans or that are not approved by the municipality. And the response there is that the banks, sometimes they don't approve the sale. They don't approve a bond for such a property. But sometimes what they do is they only look at the approved structure. I know that's what they do with rooms. If you've got a property that's got back rooms that are not approved by the municipality and you want to sell it, and your buyer wants a bond, the banks are going to only look at the house, that was approved by the municipality and say the value of this property is 300,000, although you would have put it at 1 million, but they say, the bank says, what we see here is only a house, there is no rooms because there are no rooms in the plan. It is important that we do proper due diligence before we buy, especially standalone houses. Pindi?